So, Ashley,
Yes.
we are just one day after 4th of July, and how did you celebrate?
I went down to Brooklyn with my wife and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law and his parents and my nephew.
Good.
And we watched the fireworks in Williamsburg. I even got
Really?
a bracelet
I see
from
the
the
bracelet.
park.
That was what caught my eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like fireworks?
I like fireworks a lot. I like fireworks for any particular occasion. I don't necessarily have an affinity towards the 4th of July per se, but they have the biggest fireworks, so I like to go see them.
I thought that I would, in our family, we thought that we would celebrate 4th of July in a more thoughtful way. At least we thought. And so we went to visit places associated with people upon whose backs this nation was built.
Okay.
And so in the morning we went to African burial grounds down in the South Manhattan. It's definitely worth of going. I think that for me as anthropologist also, or part-time anthropologist that's my hobby, it was really interesting, to see how much, of course, archaeologists can discern from skeletal remains. And to learn really to see the hard life of those slaves, and there were slaves in New York. And remains, how they got preserved, how they seriously inflicted even bones of people who worked so hard that you can read it from their bones.
Wow.
Centuries later. And in the afternoon, we went to another place associated with backs of people upon which this island was built, and that we went to Lenape people's village on the other corner or other end of Manhattan in Inwood.
Okay.
And that's legendarily a place where they supposedly sold Manhattan to Dutch there, and it's a legend that it was there. It's not legend that Europeans took it as such. That the whole Manhattan was sold to them, which I think is simply cultural and mentality misunderstanding, but that'll be another thing. But
history is written by the victors.
Unfortunately, yes. So that was my 4th of July, visiting First Nations and visiting slaves.
That sounds really amazing. And you actually just made me think of two things. One, did you hear about the black woman at the Statue of Liberty yesterday?
Yes, I don't have TV. I'm watching it over YouTube and other things. But of course, in media and everywhere, it was everywhere. And I just applaud her, and that's a marvelous idea.
Yeah.
Great courage. And
so for those who didn't get to see this on TV or online, there was a woman who scaled the base of the Statue of Liberty, and I was out, so I didn't get to see any of the video, but I did see the photographs. And first of all, she had like a Rise and Resist shirt and something against Trump care and things like that. But the pictures are amazing because the police are trying to get her down, and she just looks like she cannot be bothered. She is totally unfazed by everything going on around her. They evacuated the entire island over this, and she was there to protest what's been going on with the separation of children and immigration and folks asking for asylum, and like it's just this beautiful picture of just poise and power, and recognizing that, yeah, I'm going to do this, and this is going to be my protest for freedom. And so I loved that. The second thing that you reminded me of is I was online, as I am wont to be, and I noticed somebody had posted something along the lines of Black people don't celebrate American holidays for their actual meanings. We celebrate them because it's time to have a day off and be with our families and eat, basically. And I agree with that. And I found it really moving this year how much attention got paid, in my universe anyway, to the holiday of Juneteenth. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, tell me more.
So Juneteenth celebrates, at the end of the Civil War, Lincoln freed the slaves and all of that, but there were slaves in Texas who didn't know that, and they didn't get word for maybe, I think, 2 years.
No one told them, or?
Yeah, nobody let them know they were free, so they were still in slavery for an additional 2 years after the war ended, and they finally were told that they were free, and so that day is celebrated, June 19th is called Juneteenth, and I know sometimes communities will do celebrations. I've seen traditionally African-American churches do things to honor it. When I was growing up, there was a giant party that they announced on the radio every year. I was too young to know what Juneteenth actually was. I was maybe 5 or 6, but I knew that there was this giant party every June, and it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I found out why and what the meaning behind that was. And I'm really happy that more people are learning about what that is. Blackish did an episode on TV about it, I think this season, which was really meaningful.
So that's something to really celebrate.
Yeah,
then.
And at the Presbyterian Church at our General Assembly, on Juneteenth, I got to participate in a march from the Convention Center to the Justice Center in St. Louis. And I think at that day, we had raised $47,000. I think the end total was closer to maybe 54, to help bail out low-level nonviolent offenders who were in jail for things like small amounts of marijuana possession or unpaid parking tickets, and needed, some people, as little as $300 to get out of jail. And they had just been stuck there because they couldn't afford the $300. And so we got to help bail them out, which was really meaningful, both in terms of recognizing this holiday that's about setting people free, particularly setting Black people free in St. Louis, in a country where a disproportionate amount of prisoners are people of color, are specifically Black. And also that we're a church who's called to set the prisoners free, and we literally got to do that.
That's marvelous. And you know, that's the same problem in New York City and around the country. That too many people who cannot afford, being bailed, are stuck in jails, and it's really tragic.
It's hard dealing with just the various ways that even now in 2018, when we celebrate Independence Day, there's so many people who aren't independent, they're not free. And I appreciate that we can look at our history, that we can take time to celebrate true days of freedom, to keep inspiring us to fight for those who still need to be freed.
Precisely. I think that is the true heritage of that holiday, really looking who are still not free.
Yes.
And setting them free. Thank you.
Thank you.